Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sharon Walpole from CareerMap, and I will be hosting today's National Work Experience Week event with Microlise. We hopefully have our guest here, Hannah, with us shortly. She'll be talking about giving you some great tips on how to get prepared for the world of work. Before we begin, you'll see there's a chat box for you to ask questions during the presentation. There'll be a Q&A at the end of the event, but please drop any questions in the chat in the meantime. This session and all of CareerMap's National Work Experience Week live events are being recorded and will be available on demand so you can watch again. Hi, is Hannah there?
Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can hear and see me. I did mention earlier that my face is very bright. I'm not normally this bright. Perks of working from home, I suppose, and sitting in front of a window. So thank you all very much for joining us today. I hope you find the session enjoyable. There'll be lots of, as I mentioned, tips and tricks to prepare you for the world of work, and also what work experience looks like, and what what you can do to optimize your CV, and also excuse me, various kind of interview tips and how to apply for roles and all that sort of stuff.
Great.
So,
well, I'll say goodbye now. I'll be watching the chat. I'll join you later. So drop your questions in, and after the presentation, I'll pop back up. Enjoy.
Thank you. So a little bit about me then. So I'm currently the head of recruitment for Microlise Group PLC. I've got approximately 10 years experience worth of recruitment. Excuse me, I have got a bit of a tickle. So that's recruiting all over the world. So roles in Dubai, Malaysia, Australia, the US. And I've worked in a number of sectors, as you can see on the screen. So technology, construction, sales, customer service, manufacturing. So hopefully I can utilize these skills and experience that I've built to further support you guys, and what you can do to put your best foot forward when applying for roles and looking for work experience. I actually started out in the hospitality industry, so quite different to kind of what I'm doing now. So my father was in the army, so we worked over in Germany. So I worked for NAFI, if anybody's heard of it. Worked over there in the hospitality industry. But prior to that, when I left school, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up, so to speak. And that's okay. You don't need to know what you don't want to do, and if you do, you're very fortunate and very lucky. I did an apprenticeship with a excuse me, with teaching assistant. I had a spout in hairdressing as well. And I also, the people that you avoid on the street that are trying to sell you things, I also did that as well. So I've got a whole range of experience, but I've firmly stuck my flag in the ground of recruitment for the moment. So what are we going to do today then? So as I've mentioned, I'll give you a bit of an overview about Microlise. So that's the business that I work with at the moment, the different departments and the different roles that are on offer, and how you can potentially get into those roles if it's something that piques your interest. The world of work, what is the world of work like? Because it's very different to being at school and going to university and college and all that sort of stuff. So what does that look like, and how are you going to get into the world of work? CV optimization as well, as I mentioned. So how can you write a really good CV when you don't necessarily have any work experience? What can you do to make you stand out from the crowd? But also what not to do as well. Finding that perfect role. So you've written your CV, excellent. How do you then find the role? What platforms can you use? What different ways can you make yourself stand out? And then interview tips and tricks as well. So what to do, what not to do in an interview, what to expect, and all that sort of stuff as well. And then, as we mentioned earlier, there will be a Q&A at the end. So any questions, pop them in the chat box, and hopefully we can get to them at the end of the presentation. So Microlise then. So this is the company I work for. So we are a technology company. We're based in Nottingham. We've been operating for 30 years now. And essentially our purpose, as it says there, enabling a safe and efficient and sustainable connected world. So in layman's terms, we are a telematics company. So if you've never heard of telematics before, it's really, really souped up black boxes. So when you have a black box on a vehicle, for example, it gets your insurance premium down. But what we offer is for fleet of vehicles, so big household names and household customers. So as I mentioned, you may not have heard of Microlise, and this is essentially what we do and kind of what that looks like. Say fleet performance, for example. So our software that's embedded and fitted on our customers' fleet of vehicles, so customers such as Tesco, Waitrose, Hovis, Eddie Stobart, all the big household names, it monitors the performance of the vehicles and the performance of the drivers. Excuse me. So if they're braking too harshly, how can we then, what can we do to reduce CO2 emissions? We also have the journey management side. So you've got, if we look at Tesco's as an example, you will have a Tesco's delivery that's due to deliver at 5 locations as an example. So our software will then plan their routes that you've got planning optimization, so that it plans the best route in terms of, this is going to use the least fuel, this is going to be better for the environment, any kind of a bit like Google Maps, I suppose. So if there's any accidents that are on the road, how to avoid that. But then also, again, looking at looking at Tesco as an example, the big unitainers that they use, that kind of puts all the goods onto the shop floor, that's in the deliveries and in the lorries, they're all embedded with a chip. So that chip will then speak to the driver that's driving past a site and may say, oh, you've got 50 unitainers at this site that you could pick up. So each unitainer as its own is worth £50. So they get left around. Whereas if we've got this software that's then notifying the drivers, they can go and pick it up and then they can kind of save money that way. We've also got ePod solutions as well. So that's electronic proof of delivery. So, the handheld device that you sign, that's our software. So DPD users, for example, previously, pre to COVID, it was a signature that you'd put onto this handheld device. Whereas now it's more, it takes a photo. Try not to get your feet in if you haven't got socks on. I know that's my trick. So that's all our software and our products and the solutions that we deliver. So, as I said, you may not have heard of Microlise, but you certainly will have heard of a number of our customers that we've got, as you can see on the screen here. There's definitely a touch point from Microlise in your day-to-day life, whether you know it or not. So, looking at Kellogg's, for example, if you're tucking into your bowl of cornflakes, well, it's our software that has got you that bowl of cornflakes, that's got you into the shop. We work with many industries such as agriculture, transport and logistics, the Ministry of Defence, and then all the major retailers that are utilising our products as well. Excuse me. And then the next slide. So Microlise, that's us as a business, but what does that look like in terms of the world of work? What kind of departments do we have? So as you can see on the screen, these are our main 6 kind of functional areas within the business, and they all feed into each other to then support the overall kind of business strategy. So if we look at technology, that's essentially the back end of our software. So the people that are building the codes, they're building the architecture of the systems and how that works and how they all integrate together, and how all our software works together as well. We've also got ICT and cybersecurity. As you can imagine, cybersecurity these days is quite a big risk to a business, particularly with so much being online at the moment. So there are cybersecurity functions as well. So the technology will then feed into our product team, so our product strategy and our product management. So the products are essentially the front end of our systems, the front end of the solutions that we deliver to customers. So we have our product owners and our business analysts that are working with customers to ensure that our solutions are fit for purpose, and they're able to then achieve their business goals and their business strategies utilising the products that we've developed. In terms of the front end side of things, as I mentioned, there's also user experience and design. So what the look and the feel of the products and what they look like. So typically people that are quite creative and they've got quite creative background and mindset, they're normally quite good within product positions and within product roles, because it's the look and the feel, and how that works and how that's best utilised. So we've built our products. We've got our product teams that have then, gone to the market to see what it is we can do and what we can deliver. It then feeds into our business development team. And I've just noticed slight formatting issue. That is one word, business development, I promise. So our business development teams are essentially sales. So we have our new business sales teams who will go out and they will find the business, and they will sell our products to customers based on people that have gone onto our website, for example, and registered an interest. If we've got customers who are potentially utilising software of one of our competitors, they will then speak to them and say, well, have you heard of Microlise? These are the solutions we can deliver. So once we've got that new business, we then move on to customers. They become our customer accounts, which is our customer accounts team. So another element of sales, but it's more looking after and supporting our current customers. Another way is within business development is then obviously PR and communications, whether that's internal communications or external communications and marketing. So it's all well and good having these great products that have been developed by technology and they've been developed by the product teams, but how are we going to market that? How are we going to go to market and showcase the products that we've got. So we have a very big marketing function. Within marketing, you could work with the SDR team, which is sales development representatives. So they do more of a demand and discover role based on the queries and the insights that come into our website. PR and communication, so public relations and communication, so all the content that you see on socials, on the website, any press releases, for example, they come from our PR and communications team. So once we've sold the products and we've developed them and we've marketed them, we then kind of feed them into the human resources team, operations and finance. So human resources essentially look after the people. We're a people department. So I work here within human resources because I work in recruitment. So my role and the recruitment team's role is to ensure that we're getting the best people. We're recruiting the top talent that's out there, whether that's through apprenticeships, through work experience, or really kind of senior technical roles as well, and how we find them. So once we've then recruited those people, we want to make sure that we are continually developing their learning development, whether that's from a professional point of view or from a personal point of view, to ensure that we're reaching their goals. We then have HR operations, so they'll deal more with the kind of the policy and the process side of things. So any kind of employee engagement initiatives are kind of led heavily by our HR operations teams. So there's all manner of roles that you can do within human resources. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I had no idea that I wanted to work in HR. I just kind of fell into it, to be honest. But then I realised that actually this is something that I'm really passionate about. And luckily, I was given that opportunity to start a new career. And it's quite a good route into HR in terms of you can start in a kind of an admin function and then work your way up, which is kind of what I did. Or there's obviously various qualifications that you can do as well, such as CIPD, that will then get you into a HR role. And then from HR, so if we look at recruitment, it's closely connected with marketing. So marketing teams will kind of market the software and market products to customers, whereas in recruitment, you kind of market the job and the business in terms of the inside element of Microlise to attract the top people. We then have operations teams as well. So operations it kind of encompasses a number of departments, as you can see here. So project management. So once we've got we've got a customer on board, we then need to manage that project in terms of how can we integrate it into your fleet of vehicles. How are we going to, in terms of our field engineers, for example. So our engineers will service and install all the equipment on the fleet of vehicles with our customers. We then have our manufacturing and warehouse teams as well. So the black boxes and the driver cabs that goes into the company's fleet of vehicles, that's all produced on site. So that's produced at Microlise. So their roles from warehouse engineers to service centre engineers, so more kind of hands-on technical roles as well. We then have customer support, so essentially customer service roles. So if there are any technical issues, you would go through to our customer support team. And we have a number of positions within customer support. So anything from the first level, a customer phones up and they've got an issue. Okay, can I fix it? Have you tried turning it on and off again? Which is typically a quick fix that we find when you may find this yourself, when you've had an issue. It will then kind of get escalated if it's quite a big fix. Maybe it's something to do with the development, maybe it's something to do with the software and something's not quite working. It then gets escalated. So they work very heavily, work in conjunction, with our technology and our product teams as well, to make sure that we do have a kind of a first fix, 90%. First fix, fix first time, 90% of the time. Apologies. And then engineering, as I've mentioned, so these are essentially our technical hardware engineers, so auto electrical engineers that will work on our customer sites, so installation and servicing the equipment. And then, of course, finance. So the finance of the business. So whether that's the payroll to ensure that all employees are paid. Another good route into the finance is through payroll, because you could potentially have an opportunity as a payroll assistant, a payroll administrator, and then kind of work your way up from there. accountants, planning and analysis, so planning the kind of the financial budgets for the business, working with our procurement team as well, who they will work with our suppliers in terms of making sure that the equipment that we're the equipment that we're building, for example, that's then procured from a supplier, so they manage all those relationships. And it's a bit of an odd one at Microlise, but we have our legal teams that will report into our finance team as well. So these are our legal counsels, paralegals, for example. So if you're looking for a role that goes into the legal sector, looking for that kind of position or work experience within that kind of role will definitely be beneficial to you. So what are the benefits of work experience? So again, everything that you can see on the screen here. If like myself, you don't really know what you want to do or where you see your career going, or where does your heart truly lie, then the benefit of the work experience is you get experience in a number of different industries. So as I mentioned earlier, I've worked across a variety of sectors and a variety of industries. But actually my work experience was at school. And I realised after doing my work experience, you know what, this probably isn't something I want to do. So then I went off and did work experience more in an office environment, and then just kind of got my name out there to experience all these different skills and all these different sectors and industries to work in. You get hands-on experience as well in the world of work. So you have your, if you're currently in education, you have your kind of set routine, don't you? You get up, you go to school, you have your break, your lunch, you have your other break, and then you come home. So you develop more of a professional routine in terms of you get up, you get to network with a number of different people, you get to excuse me, you get to have that hands-on, as I mentioned, hands-on experience in terms of, okay, I'm doing work experience now in a finance position. So I get to look a bit of experience and what it looks like to be an accountant. Is this something that I want to do? It boosts your confidence as well, particularly if you are fortunate enough to know what you want to do and where you want your career to go in the future. You will then boost your confidence by doing work experience in a role, and then it kind of highlights and strengthens that, yes, this is what I want to do. And it will also support in terms of your applications when you're applying for roles in the future by having that confidence and building your network as well, which is so good and it's so important in the world of work, is having a professional and personal network around you. We always say at Microlise that, especially in recruitment, today's candidate could be tomorrow's customer. So it's really good to utilise that professional and personal network as well. So CV optimization. So you're probably thinking, well, this all sounds really great and I want to go and do work experience, but I don't have any commercial experience. So how am I going to do that and put my best foot forward? So I don't want to just read everything off the slides. As you can see, we have got some kind of do's and don'ts here. So in a bit more detail then, so personal summary and career goals. So highlight on your CV what it is you want to do, what it is you want to achieve in the long term, where your aspirations do lie. I would also recommend, as I've mentioned, tailoring your CV. So if you know that you're applying for a role in finance, as an example, I don't know why I keep using finance because I work in HR, but we'll continue with finance as an example. Then specify in your CV, in your personal summary, what is it about finance that attracts you? What is it that's motivating you to apply for this role? Where do you see your career going? Again, using the finance as an example, are you interested in doing some more professional qualifications within finance, such as AAT, for example? And then list your key achievements. So as I mentioned, if you don't have an abundance of hands-on commercial experience, you will have a lot of experience that you can draw from that's really going to strengthen your CV and why employers should choose you and opt for you. So things such as qualifications. So maybe you've done the Duke of Edinburgh. So that's a high, excuse me. So you will have achieved a lot by doing your Duke of Edinburgh Award. And what did you gain from that? Any projects that you've worked on? So this kind of falls into, qualifications and skills as well. So proofread, I have put proofread on here. You'll be surprised how many CVs you receive that people haven't read, and it's just littered with grammatical errors and spelling errors. And there was a recent study that found that 70% of applications have been rejected because of the errors that have been on their script that they've seen on the CV. So definitely proofread your CV and include any relevant links as well. So if you've got portfolios, if you're more kind of creative, you've got a portfolio of work, include that on there. If you've got a LinkedIn profile, for example, which is a professional network, include links to that as well. So the don'ts, essentially the don'ts are kind of the opposite of the do's. So don't include, loads of irrelevant information that's not going to highlight and strengthen your CV. The errors, as I've mentioned, so the spelling, grammatical errors, fancy formatting as well. So the sort of fancy formatting, it has its place. It's really good on a wedding invite, but on a CV, try and keep it nice and clear, Calibri, Arial, that sort of thing as well. And make sure that it is in date, your CV. So if you've tailored your CV to a specific role or a specific business, if you do then apply for a different role or a different business, make sure that you do to kind of tailor it back and that all the information on there is current and up to date. And references without consent. So references are really good as way of your kind of recommendations of why an employer should choose you to come and work for them. But do ensure that you have their consent before you do so. A lot of people will say references provided on request. Example. So yeah. So that's your CV. So then, how do you find a role? So we've optimized your CV. You've decided, this is what I want to do as a career. This is the work experience that I want to do. So as you can see, there are a number of online platforms that are there to help you and to support you when applying for roles. So a few on here that you'll probably recognize, Indeed, Reed, for example, Total Jobs. They're the main kind of job boards. I've put LinkedIn on here as well, which is essentially a professional Facebook. So it's really good at building your professional network, building, relationships with people at various companies, your friends and family as well. Connect on there. You just never know where an opportunity is going to arise or where you're going to find an opportunity about a role. Within LinkedIn as well, you can add a banner that says that you're open to work and a personal profile, that's essentially the same as the personal summary that you put on your CV. So what is it that you're looking for? Where do you see your career going? And all that sort of lovely stuff. Another good one on that you may not be aware, so Indeed and Glassdoor actually act as platforms for employers to anonymously review companies. So it gives you an insight into a business before you apply for any roles there. And you can search as well based on, the role that you're looking for. So I'm not going to use finance as an example. I'll move back to HR now because that's where I work. So you can search on Glassdoor, for example, at a company that you're about to apply for, search for HR roles and reviews from people that are within HR, and you get more of a feel for the kind of the culture, the cultural side of things, what it's like to actually work there. And because it's anonymous, very much like TripAdvisor, you do get bad reviews on there as well, but it just helps you to make an informed decision, when applying for roles. I've also put on here apprenticeships and the government website. So there's a lot of apprenticeships out there. If you look on the government website, if you just Google apprenticeships gov website, for example, there'll be hundreds and hundreds of roles out there, all across the UK that will be looking for apprentices that are kind of want to kickstart their career within professional sectors. But you'll also get the training as well. So you'll get the benefit of, you'll get that hands-on work experience, but then you'll also get the qualification at the end of it as well, which will be paid for via the apprenticeship levy. So again, if you're not sure what you want to do, or if you do know what you want to do, definitely have a look at apprenticeships and what you can do. So they're the kind of the main job boards that I've mentioned. There are other job boards available. I would say these are, the top ones. I think I read a study, majority of applications for roles do come from Indeed and LinkedIn. So definitely, register for job alerts, put your details on there. And by registering for job alerts as well, if a role comes up that is suitable for you or may be suitable, you'll then get email notifications about it as well. So you can put kind of keywords, for example. So you could put HR, apprenticeship, traineeship, admin roles, etc., etc. So again, apologies for the formatting on this one, but this is just other ways that you can utilise looking for, various employment. So it's not just a case of, applying for roles online. There are all different, all manner of ways to apply for positions or hear about job vacancies that may be suitable for you. Gone are the days where we used to hand in a physical copy of your CV to a company and hope that they call you back. As I mentioned earlier, there are apprenticeships, universities, if you want to go and get a degree in a kind of a field that you want to study in. But also social media now plays a very big part in people when they're searching for roles. We recently employed somebody that applied for one of our roles via Facebook, for example. So definitely, keep your eye out there, see what's out there. Careers fairs, excellent way of learning more about businesses and the roles that are on offer. So you can go; they're free to attend, and you get to meet many companies within the local area that may have opportunities, traineeships, work experience for you as well. Company websites. So this one people seem to forget this one, but if there is a company that you're specifically interested in that you want to work for, have a look at their website, see what their careers page looks like, and can you register for job alerts? Do they have a section, for example, where you can register your interest and get in touch with them and ask them to kind of keep you in a talent pool so they can get in touch with you should an opportunity arise? So that's always a really, really good one, particularly because if you're drawn to that company, chances are you know a lot about them. So there'll be a reason that you want to work for them. So it should flow quite naturally in terms of, why do you want to work here? And then personal networks as well. So personal and professional networks, as I've mentioned, LinkedIn is a professional network. It's like a professional Facebook, but utilize your networks in terms of having those referrals into a company. Your mum, dad, sister, cousin twice removed, best friend, for example, they may all work at companies that are offering work experience, or they're offering apprenticeships or job positions that may be suitable for you. And it's kind of the old saying, you don't ask, you don't get. So definitely utilize your personal and professional network. And as I said, going to careers fairs, you can register your interest there and you can start to build your professional network, which will definitely put your best foot forward going forward. So interview skills then. So you've got the CV, you've applied for the job, they've asked you for an interview, so you think the hard part's over. Unfortunately, I wish it was, but unfortunately, you do then need to go through the interview process. So the one thing I would always tell any candidate is research, research, research. So whether that's your research in the company, researching the role, researching the kind of the career that you want, make sure that you're well equipped in terms of why. Why do you want to have this position? What is it about this company that you want to work for? What research have you done? What have you heard about us? It's all these kind of things, and these are the questions that people will ask you in interviews. To make sure that you are the right candidate. So if you've done your research and you've done thorough research and you can fully understand, as I've said there, the whys, the why you want to work there, why you want to have a career in finance or HR or marketing or software development, that will really support in terms of putting your best foot forward. Knowing your CV as well, another one that surprises people, but if you've written your CV, you will be asked questions on your CV. So make sure you know exactly the content that you've put there. If you're telling people that you really want a career in finance, but actually you're interviewing for a job in marketing, you don't know your CV. So just make sure you do know, the content that's on there and you are prepared in terms of any questions they may have. And more in terms of the kind of the practical element of interviewing as well. So plan your route. It seems like quite an obvious one, but again, you would be surprised if you've applied for a role and you know that it's 30 minutes to get there. Make sure that you've planned your route, whether that's public transport or whether it's getting a taxi, driving, for example, to make sure that you do arrive on time with plenty of time as well to kind of compose yourself and prepare for that interview. If you have got examples, I would definitely, include examples on your CV, examples of work that you've done, if it's a role within development, so any code you may have written, any portfolio of work that you've got, definitely include that as well. And then just the kind of the basics ones towards the end. So if you make sure you have questions prepared, if you found something, if you've seen that they've highlighted a charity that they work with, ask about it. Anything that kind of stands out to you as a company that they may not have answered for you kind of during the interview process, ask them at the end. And also thank them for the time. Again, a very obvious one that does seem to get missed. Thank the interview panel for the time. Ask them, what are the next steps? When am I likely to hear from you? Is there anything else that you want to hear from me? Because it makes you stand out essentially. It shows that you're invested in them and it shows that you're kind of committed to the opportunity as well. And then follow up. We had at Microlise, we had an assessment centre last week, and out of 20 candidates that attended, only one person actually sent an email to follow up in terms of thank you for inviting me to the day. And then they highlighted kind of in that email, what they enjoyed about the day and what they've learned about us as a business. And it really made them kind of stand out. And it just shows that they've got that commitment, as I mentioned, and that dedication kind of to the role and to the opportunity. So in terms of the kind of tips and tricks, that kind of brings us to the end now of our presentation. So good luck. As I said, it's nobody knows what they want to do. I certainly didn't know what I wanted to do either. So it's just seeing what's out there. And then if you do want any more information, by all means, visit our careers website, or you can contact us at jobs@Microlise.
Brilliant. That was quite a comprehensive guide and tour of all the ways to make a success. We'll highlight that careermap.co.uk has loads of apprenticeship opportunities and lots of information as well on hints and tips on the journey that you're going to go on to find both work experience or if you're actually going to look at your next steps. So shall we crack on with some of the questions that came through? I've tried to group them together, and we've got a group of questions about Microlise specifically. I think you wanted to emphasize that perhaps what the opportunities are or not at the moment, but we'll go through the questions. Katie asked, where are you based?
So we're based in Nottingham. So we're based all over the world. Our main head office is in Nottingham, but we do have a number of kind of home-based and field-based opportunities as well. But I'd say the head office is in Nottingham. That's predominantly where the main functions are.
Great. Olivia asks, is the work experience based on or offline? Do you offer work experience?
So we do offer work experience, but more on a kind of an ad hoc basis. So because of the size of the company, so whilst we're 600 employees, we can't offer work experience to hundreds of people every single year because they wouldn't benefit from it. However, what we can do is people that are based locally, if you want to kind of register your interest, and if it is something that we can support with, then we will try and find something that we can do to support that for you. Great.
Lee, I know you've spent quite a lot of time talking about why one should do work experience. He was asking, will you get a job after?
It depends on the company. It all depends on the company. So there are some companies out there that will offer work experience as a placement for maybe 4 weeks, where you'll come in, you'll do your work experience, and then you'll kind of go home again. We as Microlise, we did have one example of somebody that came to our IT team as a bit of work experience. We really liked them, so we then we gave them part-time work, and now they've been with us for about 4 or 5 years. So it all depends on the company, it depends on the opportunity, and it depends on the kind of capacity and the need of the business. So for example, if you come and you do a really fantastic job, then it could be there is an opportunity for you afterwards once you've completed school or graduated university or college, for example. Brilliant.
Tweet says, hi Hannah, can you give any advice for anyone who's not sure what career path they want to go down?
Yes, because as I said, I've done all sorts of things. And essentially, I spoke to my friends. I utilised my personal and professional network in terms of, I had a friend that worked in hospitality, asked her, what are the perks and benefits? What do you recommend in terms of what do you enjoy about working there? I also looked at various kind of college courses and various qualifications that I could do and just see if any of them kind of stood out to me. And I ended up in recruitment because I went to a recruitment agency for them to find me a job, because exactly the same. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I thought, well, I'll go to an agency. This is my skill set. This is my CV. What can you do with me, so to speak? But then throughout that process and working with that recruitment agency, I realized, I might actually like this, helping people achieve and find their career goals. So that's how I kind of fell into it. As I mentioned, it's perfectly fine not to know what you want to do. I think I left school and it took about 6 years, showing my age now. It took about 6 years for me to kind of find the career that I wanted. So it was just research, as I've mentioned earlier, research into what you want to do, and try and find something that plays to your strengths as well. I was always very creative at school, and now I've kind of landed in recruitment. But as I mentioned earlier, it kind of feeds into marketing in a way. And you get to be creative in terms of adverts and interviewing and assessment centres and that sort of stuff. So I've kind of waffled a little bit, but I hope that helps.
Poppy, this is a lovely question, asked, what is a typical work week like? I'm assuming she's talking about working at an organization like yourself, because it's
Yeah.
obviously going to be different for lots of different people, isn't it?
Yeah. So a typical work week, it all depends on the kind of the role that you're doing. So I think if we were to look at a typical work week in an office environment, for example, you'd probably come into work, you'd have a team meeting maybe in the morning, to discuss what are your objectives for the day, what are you looking to achieve, what is there anything that you need any support with. Lots of meetings. I have lots and lots and lots of meetings. But again, it does generally depend on the role. It's very, when I left school and I started working, excuse me, working, I found it absolutely exhausting, because your brain is engaged for 8 hours a day. But it was also really exciting because you're given kind of autonomy, and you're starting your career, which is obviously a very exciting, very exciting time of your life, isn't it?
Olivia's asking, what is the best and least favorite thing about working at Microlise, and how many people work at your
Oh,
company?
okay. So that's a really good question. So I'll do the easy one first. So there's 600 people currently that work at Microlise all over the world. So about 400 in the UK, and then we've got India, Australia, New Zealand, and France as well. What do I enjoy least? Oh, that's I think what I enjoy least is the pandemic recently. So what I really really enjoyed about Microlize is the people and the culture, and kind of you go into the office and you've got that real sense of kinship when you walk in, and it's not necessarily just Microlize. It's a lot of companies where I've had that. So I think the thing I've enjoyed least is we've now adopted more of a hybrid working model because of the pandemic. So a lot of working from home. So I'm only in the office maybe 2-3 days a week. So I really missed that kind of buzz, as I go into the office every single day and you see people every day. So that's probably what I enjoy least. Might be a bit of a cop out, that answer, though, because I've just, same as everything, blames the pandemic.
Well, Katie just put up on a chat too and said, I think it's nice that you meet every day to speak as a team. Do all companies do this?
So I can't speak for all companies. I know that a lot of people that I know within my network, they do have regular kind of team meetings. So again, it's something that we adopted, as part of the pandemic and working from home. So every morning, we'll have a 15-minute catch up and a coffee, just to check that we're all okay, check if anyone's got any kind of burning questions. And it's because we don't have that face-to-face interaction in the office anymore. So we've scheduled these calls every morning, just so it's a stand-up basically. So just kind of go around what you're doing. I know a lot of companies do offer it, but I can't speak for all of them, unfortunately.
Olivia seems to think that we missed the best part of the conversation question. I'm assuming she meant what's the best part of your
Sorry,
job.
I kind of answered it in one go. So for me, the best part, it's kind of twofold. So the best part for me is the people that I work with, and that's the people I work with directly, but then also people in various departments. So the good thing with recruitment, is you're recruiting for all areas of the business, so you get to meet with everyone, and all different departments, and you learn so much. So it's definitely the people, that side of things, but also my role. I love my job. I'm very passionate about recruitment, and I think for me, what I really really love is I can support people getting their career of their dreams, and support people getting into the world of work. And it gives you that, it's very cheesy, but it gives you like a warm fuzzy feeling, once you've built a relationship with somebody and they start working and you see them at the coffee machine. It's just a great feeling to have.
Great. How long have you been working there now?
I've been there for just over 2.5 years. So I started, and then 6 months later, we all started working from home, which is a credit to the business, I suppose. I was only there 6 months, and I've got this real sense of kind of affiliation with the business, even though we've been working remotely for so long.
Great. Jack asked quite a specific question. Can you give any application tips for the software engineering roles within Microlise? What do you look for?
So within software engineering, so we look for people that have got experience, or they like coding in their spare time, for example. So if you've got a GitHub, that's got kind of examples, I can't think of the word, examples of codes that you've worked on. So we look for that sort of stuff, and people that have got not only like a keen interest in technology and in coding and in software development, but we look for people that have ideally got those. If it's a graduate opportunity, for example, we look for people that have got a computer science degree or a similar kind of numerate subject. But yeah, that's kind of what we look for. Again, it's a lot of it all comes down to the person, particularly when they're entry-level roles. We want to see somebody that's got that passion, that enthusiasm, that desire, and kind of willingness to want to learn new skills and want to work as for a big company. And what we do to support our customers.
John wanted to know, asked earlier, do you have work experience roles working on sustainability?
What do you mean by sustainability? Sorry.
I would imagine he's talking about, as it's quite a hot topic with careers, and perhaps that Microlise must be thinking about this if they were able to come and do any work experience at some point. Do you have that specifically? Is it woven to other?
So as I mentioned, we do any work experience we have is always on a kind of an ad hoc basis. So I think in that example, it may be worth, if it is something you're interested in, maybe dropping us an email to register your interest, and then we can kind of find out that information and then get back to you.
Great. And you do apprenticeships, yes?
Yes, so we have apprenticeships at the moment. At the moment, we don't have any that are kind of live apprenticeships at the moment. But as I mentioned on one of my slides, we do on our careers page, which is listed on the screen now, we do have an area where you can register your interest and you can select in there that you're looking for an apprenticeship or you're looking for a role in a certain department, for example. And then when we do post any live vacancies, you'll then get an email notification of that. And again, you can email us.
Great. And Nick asked, do you require work experience before applying for an apprenticeship?
Not necessarily. So it would depend on the apprenticeship and what the kind of the criteria is. So for example, an apprenticeship within software engineering, then we do require that people have got an ICT A level. And kind of numerate subjects, because it's the criteria to be able to put you onto that apprenticeship. But it would all depend on the role that we're looking for.
And speaking of tech, Poppy wanted to know, will any jobs be going because of technology?
As in having physical people in the
disappearing,
office?
like tech taking over the human job, as it were.
It does feel, doesn't it, like technology is taking over the world. But the good thing with technology is you need the driving force behind it to make sure that it all works and everything's kind of the functionalities there. So I'd like to think that no, we still very much need that people element. But who knows? Who knows what the future will happen? What's going to happen in 10, 20 years? But currently, at the moment, we very much need employees to support our solutions.
Great. And I also think that tech kind of helps you do your job and changes your job. Nick was asking, speaking about driving force, do you need a driving license for the jobs?
Again, all depends on the positions. So majority of the roles that are office based don't need a driving license. If it's a role that does involve driving, so maybe it's a role within sales, for example, so you're driving to customer sites, then you would require a driving license. If it's roles within kind of field-based, so service engineers that go onto our customer sites to service and install the equipment, then yes, you would need a driving license for that one.
Great. And what skills do you look for?
Again, all depends on the role. I sound like a broken record. So all depends on the positions that people are applying for. So, for example, a role in finance, maths would be a good skill. A role in HR, then having those more soft skills in terms of your communication, those interpersonal skills, and more about you and your values would definitely be beneficial. I'd say typical skills that we look for across any role is, excellent communication, being a team player, and having that passion and enthusiasm. We always say, the collective we in recruitment, that you can teach a skill. You can teach somebody how to use a system, how to use a calculator, how to open a calendar, for example, but you can't teach enthusiasm. You can't teach passion. So that's what we look for.
Katie wants to know, how long should a CV be?
Again, these things are all very subjective. I would say no longer than 2 pages if you can help it. So it would depend on the the number of work and number of work experience that you've had and the number of roles that you've had. I think for somebody who's maybe starting out and you don't necessarily have that hands-on commercial experience, then no more than 2 pages. And try not to have big scripts of text as well, where it's just a big paragraph. Try and have it so it's really clear in terms of this is what you've done, this is where you've worked, these are some bullet points in terms of the key achievements and responsibilities that you've done, and try and keep it quite not overloaded with words and information. So I hope that helps. I hope that answers and helps.
Laura's asking more specifically, you had a slide earlier about the different sorts of organizations that you work with.
Yeah.
She was asking, do your staff come in contact with the staff at Tesco's and Waitrose, and how do your paths cross?
So we do in terms of those customer facing roles. So roles that are the field engineers, for example, that go and do the installations and the servicing of the equipment. Our sales teams and our marketing team, they will meet with customers face to face, depending on kind of what their role is and what their responsibilities are. So sales will meet with the customers to sell our software and sell our equipment to them. We recently, with our graduate scheme, in software engineering, the cohorts that we have that join us kind of every couple of months, pre-pandemic, they used to actually go to JCB as an example, and they would go and see physically, how our software works, and how it works with the customers. And then we also had almost like I can't think of the word now, like a sharing is caring, I suppose, but we had our graduates go to Kellogg's, or it may have been Asda, and they essentially did a day in the life of an Asda driver, so they could see our products in action and how they work kind of day to day. But rule of thumb, we don't typically, depends on your role, you don't typically interact with the customers that much. Apart from, obviously, as I said, when you do go to Tesco's and you think, well, all this stuff is here because of us.
Ava wants to know, what is progression like at Microlise?
So we're very heavily invested in personal and professional development. So we have our core values that are absolutely intrinsic to everything we do as a business. And one of our core values is we continually develop. So at Microlise, the average length of service is about 8 years. We've got people that have been with the business, started in manufacturing as a manufacturing engineer, and then 20 years later they're on the executive board. So there's a lot of kind of lateral movements within Microlise. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of crossover between recruitment and marketing. So if I did, part of my appraisal or part of my development, I then wanted to, I want to step away from recruitment and work more in marketing. Then as a business, we do try and support, support people kind of chasing their goals, really. What we don't want to do is employ loads of people, and then they realise that they want to work in a different sector or in a different department with different skills, and then we lose them. We like to kind of keep talent within Microlise, and anything we can do to support, we do.
There's a couple of interesting questions that relate to that. Kyle wanted to know, is the culture different in each department with so many employees? Mm-hmm. And Leah wants to know, if she came to work for you, would she get to work in different areas of the business to find out what she wants to do?
Yeah, great question. So the first one, in terms of the culture, so every team is different, as you know. So I would say that our team, we're very people focused because it's HR and it's all about the people, whereas people in software development are more about the technology. But the good thing with Microlise is because we have our core values, and as I mentioned, they're intrinsic to the way that we work, the way we interact with our customers, the way that we kind of develop our people. So as part of our annual appraisals, we will have a kind of a core values assessment, so to speak. And because when we recruit people based on the core values, and they will have core values assessments with our board of directors. So we're recruiting people that align to our values, so that overall, whilst we have different synergies in different departments, overall the culture is, I'm very biased because I work there, but it is a great culture to work in, because of those, as I've mentioned, we support people's development, and we want to recruit people and employ people and retain people that share our values as well.
Great. And Nick, coming back to looking for work and some of the great tips that you gave,
Mm-hmm.
Nick wanted to know, could you give any tips to succeed in interviews?
Yeah, so what I would say is, I don't think I did mention it actually, but you may have heard that 80% of communication is body language. So you may be saying all the right things and answering all the right questions, but if you're sat there, with your arm crossed, leaning back, not really interested, not really paying attention, and not really engaged, it's just not going to go in your favour. So tips to succeed, as I've mentioned, research, know exactly what it is that why you want to work for the company, what it is about the role that you want to do, what it is that excites you, what it is that motivated you to apply. And I think when you understand the whys of why you want to work somewhere, that's going to come across when you're speaking to people, particularly if you, as I've mentioned, you've got that open and positive body language. Research, obviously, number one. Practice as well. Practice makes perfect. It's the age-old saying. So if you're going to be nervous naturally, particularly if you haven't interviewed before, so maybe with a friend or with a parent or a family member, ask them to ask you some kind of example questions and competency-based questions, so that you can kind of get into the swing of what it's like to have an interview. And I think that will definitely support you as well. But knowing, I mean, I'm quite guilty of waffling, but try to keep your examples and your answers concise and to the point, and draw from your own experience as well. So try not to use hypothetical examples. So if somebody asked you, can you give me an example of where you've worked really well within a team? Don't give them an example that's hypothetical. So, well, if I did this and if I worked here as a team, I would do this. Use your own personal experience where you can give those demonstrable examples of what you have done, and how you've achieved that. I hope that
Um,
helps.
yeah, it does. And I know sometimes the questions seem a little bit irrelevant, but I think they're kind of reflecting a bit. And
Mm-hmm.
Nate wanted to ask, could you give any examples of irrelevant information that you should not include on your CV?
So irrelevant information. So, for example, marital status. People don't need to know marital status. A lot of CVs now, particularly with a lot of people remote working, they'll just put the town that they live in rather than their full address because it's irrelevant. Hobbies and interests as well is always a really good one. So people get an insight in terms of kind of what you do outside of work, but I wouldn't focus on that in terms of your CV. Focus more on what you can bring to the team and what you can bring to the business. So as I've mentioned, looking at those key achievements, and how you can best utilize those and repurpose them into the kind of the world of work and those transferable skills. Irrelevant things, I've seen CVs before where people have said, they're a non-smoker, the date of birth and marital status, and we don't need that information. And it also potentially opens you up to biases as well. So yeah, anything, just keep it factual, keep it what you can offer people, and information that they need. So, but definitely include your contact information so they can contact you to hopefully arrange an interview for you.
Nick wanted to know, how do you manage interview nerves?
Interview nerves. So there's a lot of kind of hands-on, kind of practical things that you can do. So a lot of people may have like a paperclip in their hand and then keep their hand under the table and just kind of twiddle with a paperclip to kind of manage those nerves. But I think nerves is essentially, it's anxiety and it's that fear of the unknown. So I think if you've done enough research and you fully understand your CV and you know why you want to apply for this role and why you want to work there, then it will kind of eradicate any nerves because you'll be talking about something that you know about, and something that you're passionate about as well. As I said as well, planning your route and making sure you get there on time so that you do have time to get there and compose yourself. Maybe go to the loo, have a comfort break, have a glass of water, and help kind of ready your nerves as well. But you're going to be nervous. Everybody's nervous. I've been working for years and years and years. I still get nervous for certain situations. It's just a natural reaction to something, isn't it? But I think if you're fully prepared, then that should definitely support with any nerves you may have.
Great. We're going to change direction. And Margarita, I haven't been ignoring you. I just kind of wanted to bring this at the end. I'm guessing from the question that she does work at a school because she was asking, do you have partnerships with schools? And I was wondering if you could talk to any teachers or careers leaders out there about any kind of way, if you have resource materials, if they can get in touch with you for group activities, etc.
Yeah, so we do. So we do speakers for schools, and our learning head of learning talent development, for example, he does a lot of stuff with schools, in terms of going to schools and talking about microlising the opportunities. So for that one, I would again say if you just drop me an email, and then I can pass that on to the relevant person and start building those connections. We do a lot with universities as well, a similar aspect in terms of building those partnerships.
Brilliant. Great. Well, we're coming towards the end of the session now, and you've covered a huge range of information, from the personal kind of advice on the career hunt, job hunt, about work experience, and about Microlise. Do you want to just kind of give a bit of a closing statement or comment that you'd like to say to all of our lovely young people who've joined us today and have been incredibly chatty on the chat?
No, it's good. It's good. And sometimes I definitely feel that the Q&A, you get more, don't you? Because it's more kind of interactive. But in terms of, closing statement, thank you so much for joining. I hope you found it useful. And I hope you found that some of the tips and tricks and what to do to optimize your CV and interviews, I hope you found it beneficial. But I think in terms of a closing statement, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school, and that's okay. You don't, you're very fortunate if you know what you want to do, but it's just about getting your name out there, trying your hand with work experience in different sectors and industries, and just finding something that you are truly passionate about. And good luck as well. Good luck with whatever the future may hold.
Brilliant. Thank you for all the thank yous. Before we go, just a reminder, I've just dropped in the chat, this session has been recorded and will be available on demand on the National Work Experience Week website. So the address is there if you want to click on it. Lots of other events that you can watch if you've missed, and we still have more events coming up this week. You also have Hannah's information up that she shared for Microlise if you want more information on the screen. So if you want to take a screenshot for now, so you've got it to hand, feel free. And I'd like to say thank you very much for joining me. Really, really informative session. And hopefully we'll see you again and see all of our friendly guests again.
Lovely. Thank you
Say
very much.
goodbye now. Have a good day,
Bye.
everyone.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.